think about that one food spot, that one cozy restaurant, or the subway with a worker that hooks up your order, just anything like that. The one that makes you feel at home and at peace every time you eat there. Now, for the more niche question, can I run that place to give somebody else that same feeling? I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not your dad. I don't know your struggle. But I will say that Cuisineer is definitely a good option to have a cute, aesthetic restaurant that is supplied by dungeon monsters and caters to a town of lovable and a few mildly irritating characters. I'm Oni Ursa, and let's get started in talking about what I like and what I don't like for our very first gas review on the channel, where we dig into Cuisineer. Now, I played the PC version within 2 days of it coming out. I was basically itching for the game's release as soon as I heard about it. And at the time of starting the script, I was in summer of year 1 in the second dungeon of the game. So my relatively early feelings, you know, they changed as the world opened up to me. One aspect that will hit you first is obviously it's the headliner, it's the art. Front and center on the Steam page, it's Twitter, character design, right? It's the headliner for a good fucking reason. You can tell as early as the Google search that the art is just chef's kiss, okay? Every character is unique, from the rustic workers to the exotic merchants. Every dish drawn in such detail that will make Instagram people blush, and the descriptions on receiving them are always super peak and getting you in the right headspace to be able to almost taste it yourself. The monsters are all designed for the foods that you harvest from them, and you can feel that the team had a blast designing some of these guys. Look at the little rice mage, he's so cute, oh my goodness! The stage design in just the first dungeon feels overgrown and ancient, with little crates thrown in here and there to imply that people led explorations to these places, but they didn't settle down enough for like a reliable shop to be in the dungeons with you. The music is, I mean, it's okay for default Fantasy Town USA, but it's not getting any awards. It's not too crazy. As I'm writing this, I can only think of like 3 songs that loop in their respective areas of the game off the top of my head, and you kind of just stop noticing when you play, which some people might find, you know, to be fine because they don't go to games for music. But I wish they had, like, you know, some alternate tracks or, you know, some more standout stars as far as like an album. I think their Steam page literally has a like soundtrack for the game, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't really see a reason to buy it other than just supporting the studio. The combat and the weapons in this game are simple, but they're effective. You know, each weapon has a unique special and one of 2 augments that are randomly assigned upon discovery, or you can purchase them from shops in town. All the shopkeepers have like really fun designs and have a good selection of their respective stocks to cater to anyone's personal playstyle. You make me sick! I use the hammer a lot, but I started out with the Diba Slicer, I think. You know, because it had like the fucking Getsuga Tensho at the time. Also, for the people watching this thinking, oh wow, these monsters look really silly, I should have a nice chill time. No, the fuck you won't. These fuckers know how to jump, alright? That's all they fucking do. Just because they're merchandisable and would be a good plushie, doesn't mean they won't put you on a t-shirt. Alright? Like, do not get caught slipping in this game, thinking this shit is sweet. With that being said, let's talk about some nitpicks. Alright, I tried to stay free and clear of any other reviews at the time of writing this, just so I could write my fresh and untempered view on the game. Alright? I'll try to limit the amount of comparisons to bigger and popular games, because I feel like for a smaller indie studio to just do better, I feel like I wouldn't be very constructive, and I would be shitting on a game that I still mostly like. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, here are my nitpicks. Biggest one, and I think that it should be addressed in a future patch because it pissed me off that much, the upgrades. Alright? The ones that, you know, make sense are like the pack, belts, you know, cooking tools in your restaurant, and even like, you know, the boots and gloves, right? Like those make sense. But what really feels just asinine are the weapons. Alright? And I'm gonna pull out the whiteboard and do some basic math for you, okay? Say you have your starting spatula that does 10 damage. After some time going in and out of dungeons, you know you're gonna need to upgrade it to keep up, right? So you walk to the adorable blacksmith lady and realize that she's a fucking scammer because she'll upgrade your spatula after a day of work and 1,000 gold, which isn't that much, you know, later in the game. But for the early days, right, if you feel like you want to upgrade your weapons relatively soon within the first, you know, season or so, it's kind of a lot. It's a little steep. But Oni, you may be saying to yourself, pushing up your anime glasses menacingly behind your monitor. It's probably a good upgrade for you where you are in the game. And I would love to agree with you and tell you you're right, but let's play a little guessing game. I want you to think of a fair upgrade for upgrade number 1, okay? Like if you got 10 damage at the start, is it something like 10 to 12 to 15 maybe? Maybe it's something bonkers happens, like it adds an effect. 11. It does 11 damage, all right? You spend what is enough money to pay off your first story milestone or multiple pieces of furniture or anything useful for a single point of extra damage per swing. And to really put this in perspective, take the Bubble Tea Sister shop.
Hey man, that's not cool.
Right? You can buy the starting health potion, the milk tea, which has to be one of my favorite health potion design choices in any game, for 25 gold a pop. So doing some quick math, you can buy 40 health potions with that. And what makes it worse is that the increase isn't even proportional to each weapon. So instead of seeing a 10% increase like the spatula, if you follow my footsteps and use the hammer, that has a base damage of 35 damage, it just goes up to 36. 1,000 gold for a 3% increase in damage, alright? It's a super fucking small thing, and I don't think a lot of casual restaurateurs would really notice. But, like, it really fucks with me, because why wouldn't they just give 5 or 10% increase to every weapon and call it a fucking day? Another subject that was on my shopping block was Enkeloon, or however you pronounce his name.
Ankeloon.
Okay. Alright, the brewery dude. But, you know, as I got through the game, he landed in okay, but could be better territory, right? His whole gimmick is you can give him a piece of gear and a prepared dish that you cooked earlier, right? That you had in your fridge. So he can give it like a new effect, right? Depending on the flavor profile and rarity of the dish you give him. Okay, which makes sense. I personally have the pet peeve of, you know, like, I want it to be able to, I want to have a chart, you know, for what the flavor profiles actually did, instead of just cooking a bunch of stuff and hoping that the flavor profile was right. You know, like kind of, you gotta roll the dice, which I know I said I would stay away from comparisons, okay, to bigger franchises. But in Monster Hunter, right, if you go to the armory in Monster Hunter, okay, you get bonus effects through decorations, right, the gems that you make. And it tells you the exact materials you need and the exact thing that you would get, right? And what weapons or armor you put that thing on. And that makes sense. That makes so much sense, right? Like I can hunt around for little tomato boys or whatever to get an effect that I like. But it's fine. It's fine. It is the combat is not the focus of this game, so I can let it slide. What I am not letting slide, okay, is fucking Porcini, or whatever the fuck his name is, okay?
You're not an intellectual. You're a fake and a fraud.
I have to get into some, you know, some more late game stuff to explain why this peacock pisses me off so much. You know, I'm gonna give you your disclaimer here, right? If the taste test I've given you so far is enough for you to get interested, I strongly recommend you pick this game up for yourself, all right? Jump to this time code on screen to hear my final thoughts and overall arbitrary review of the game, or score of the game. It's casual 25 $, and for the amount I've already dumped into it, I'd say it's worth it, even though I have my gripes. Okay, unsponsored chill over. Spoiler section in 3, 2, 1. But god damn, skill issues coming real evident right now. So throughout the game, you're playing as Pom, the too good for them daughter of the most irresponsible, negligent, back of the carton ass parents of any indie game I've played in recent memory, okay? Driving plot of the game is that Pom receives a letter from these parents, framed as if they're both on their deathbeds, okay? So being a rational person, she immediately goes there and checks on their condition, and in the worst case scenario, you know, say goodbye to them. I don't like it, she doesn't like the thought, but if she doesn't make it, she is prepared to deal with that. Now imagine her and you're surprised that not only are they fine medically, but their last days, as the letter implied, were actually their last days in town before going on a world tour vacation. And they leave you a note saying not only how they couldn't wait for you, but they've saddled you with their restaurant that also has no furniture so these two could pay for their vacation. And on top of that, a Tom Nook-ass taxman comes in and tells you that your parents dipped out before paying their fucking back taxes or whatever. So the restaurant, which is now your problem, by the way, is going to be taken away if the debt's unpaid, okay? I'm sorry, but I'm glad Palm doesn't mention her grandparents, because they had to be Mishima level terrible to raise kids that think this is okay. So now, thanks to the guilt and responsibility, you spend the entire game getting the restaurant back on its feet. The game is broken up by you going into different areas, and each time you pay a debt, a new area opens up for you. Okay, this is good progression, all right? It lets you pace things out. And yes, I said each time, but we'll get there. Each area has 6 floors with a mini-boss on floor 3 and a main boss on floor 6. The first area you go to is the forest area with some basic enemies like chickens, pigs, bulls, tadpoles that shoot you, and a few others. But it also introduces my favorite enemy in the game, okay, who I refer to as the Cheese Man, alright? God, I love the Cheese Man. I love this annoying little shit, alright? I'm pretty sure he's a stand-in for, like, you know, your standard fantasy goblin with a bow and arrow or whatever, but he rushes you down, he fires a slowing net, and is a reference to both Let Me Solo Her and possibly the Cheddar Goblin. So 10 out of 10 enemy right here. If they made merch, I would probably pick something up. I'd definitely cop a goddamn potted goblin shirt.
Jeez.
So after Palm breathes a sigh of relief, she's told that the IRS appreciates the payment of her parents' first debt, and she understandably is wondering about the specific words of first debt. He then reveals that the IRS found some dusty-ass file cabinet somewhere holding even more debt from the two who left for a carton of cigarettes. Most of the game follows this formula, so we're going to do a little lightning round as we jump from the frying pan into the literal fire. The second area is the magma caverns, which introduce a few new enemies and, you know, new environmental hazard of bits of floor that break and reveal lava. The enemy shout out for this area is by far the angriest looking boy in the game, the potato guy who shoots a stack of exploding Pringles at you. I love him. I love him. The sub-boss is the Alpha Bully, affectionately called Bully McGuire, and he's the floor 3 boss that has the highest kill count on me, and I've only ever fought the Guardian once. I think he has my favorite design, okay? Favorite design and aesthetic is the Ghost Pepper Reaper, all right? The Ghost Pepper Reaper is great, and I'm still broken up on how he does not give you, like, Halloween decorations. I wanted a spooky shop, and I thought the literal Grim Reaper would give me that, but it's fine, it's whatever. The next area is the Frozen Fjord, where the sea takes vengeance for the folly of every lobster fest. This is where damn near every creature is packing heat, and my favorite character is the Oroctopus. Not a joke, and he does exactly what you think he does. The third floor boss is fine and all, but the real creme de la creme of annoying bastards is the Artillery Shrimp. This fucker, his whole gimmick, right, is that he has an aim-assisted key blast spam. And he's the reason I had to adopt a new but familiar strategy from this point forward. The final area is the mandatory poison swamp that's in every game, alright? Just like every good game has fishing.
Puny just like yours.
Hey.
Every roguelike, I think, needs a swamp. Like, it needs a swamp area. But it mostly just has enemies from other areas, which is a little bit of a letdown. But both bosses in this place were nothing too crazy. After I told him to breathe it in, you know, I don't have a lot to say about it, considering that it's probably my favorite look, you know? It's got toxic purples and icy blues all over the place. Not to mention King Cheeseman, decked out like a full Dark Souls boss, okay? Looks like he's here to, you know, tempt fate or whatever. But considering all this development and all these areas, we still have one final area to go to, and it's introduced to us through the haughtiest NPC yet. The NPC mentioned above is Caviar, an owl lady, no, not that one, who comes in, looks around your restaurant, spits in your eye, and calls you a broke bitch who can't even afford to get into the Cuisineer League, let alone rise to the top of it. Palm, of course, is just as fucking taken aback and offended as we are, because, bitch, how do you start a sentence like this? And she takes up the challenge. The entrance fee, even by late game standards, is pretty fucking steep, but when you pay it, you're allowed to enter your first competition. It follows a format that's kind of similar to, you know, another game that we at the Chotakus love very much, where 3 rival chefs need to be taken down each day, and with each day, it ramps up the difficulty. I mean, the last chef is Gordon Ramsay, to be fair. This part was rough because the league has a room corresponding to each dungeon area that you went through in the game, and you have to survive a gauntlet to get ingredients for higher level dishes, because the judges are not cheap. On the later days, they even threw in like the floor 3 bosses that are just randomized for their normal areas. And this was frustrating for me because this is the first time I had to multitask and resource manage, all right? Because all this is time. These sections, I actually needed to backtrack as well. Like I couldn't brute force my way into this because one of the judges would even ask for recipes that I hadn't unlocked yet. It was kind of wild. So every side quest, I think, needs to be done. Like, it's not optional, unless you want to just bash your head into a brick wall until they stop asking for things from you. Now, at this point, I thought that, oh, you have to fight mini bosses, and now it's probably going to be the boss rush of every final boss at the same time, right? Right? So after this, the debts, the fights, the upgrades, it all leads you to getting here at the peak of the league. And you don't need to cook a single thing for it, which is a little wild. The only thing you need to do is fight the reigning champions. This is the first look you get at Pomp's parents on those 120 gold wanted posters, and I was not disappointed. These two are definitely level 20 pro tags that give the whole "we need to see how far you grown" spiel. And as far as the fight itself, oh god, these two have hands. Feels like they have, like, skills of every boss up to this point, so I was kinda right. But they each have a phase alone, and one where the mom is on the front lines beating the shit out of you, and the dad's just sniping you in the back with suppressing fire. But after the 2 attempts, I did it. I stood at the peak and embraced my loving parents. Psych! They said how much they wanted to say, and just dips out somewhere. But at least the apology from Caviar is well earned. And with a final rip bozo from me, I had beaten all of Cuisineer. These parents, they may be hot, but damn, they are irresponsible. All in all, I think I hold to my early opinions of the game. It's definitely carried by the art and cozy vibe of the town and decorating your restaurant. Like, all those areas are really good. But the roguelike elements in the dungeon or in combat in general, kind of bare bones. This is a game that's really good for one playthrough, but I can't for the life of me imagine willingly starting from scratch with a new save, because there's almost no replay value. Like, once you get everything, I don't think I would ever start over, because there's not a lot going on under the hood here. With that being said, I would still recommend the game to give to somebody who, you know, wants to have like a low stakes cafe, but anyone who wants, you know, like a super deep story or compelling gameplay, you might need to look somewhere else. I give Cuisineer a respectable 7 out of 10, and I really want to see the studio make another big game in the future to see if they give a little bit more in the areas that needed improvement this time around. What do you all think? Do you think I was being too generous? Not lenient enough? Do you think the artillery shrimp is absolute peak boss design? Let me know in the comments if you loved the game or you hated it. But this has been Oni Ursa trying out a new format and a new look. Always remember to tip your patrons, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!